Okay, so today we're going to start a new chapter. We're going back to chapter 2. This is chapter 2, lesson 1, and it is located on page 103. Percent of a number. That is what we're going to be doing today. Percent of a number. Yes?
I don't have a pencil.
Well, what have you been writing with the whole time during bell work?
I was using the pen.
Okay, well, write your name down over here, and I want it back. Sign out for this pencil. Okay, so back to the recording here. Percent of a number, page 103. Our real world link. It says, some students are collecting money for a local pet shelter. The model shows that they have raised 60% of their $2,000 goal, or $1,200. Okay, so if they get a 100%, that's the decimal 1, and that would be the fraction 5 over 5. So now 80%, let's change 80% to a decimal. It's going to be 0.8. And 80 hundredths, you could write it like that. That would be 80 over 100, which simplifies to 8/10, which finally simplifies to 4/5. All right. This one, 40%, or is that 60? Excuse me, 60%. The decimal is 0.6. Can I just write it as 0.6? Everyone knows that 0.60 is the same thing as 0.6. You remember, you just move it 2 places to the left. That is 6/10, and you do have to simplify your fractions. That simplifies to 3/5. Any questions? In the next one, 40% is 4/10. You move it 2 places. 4/10 will simplify to 2/5. 20%. You move it 2 places to the left. 2/10. And 2/10 will simplify to 1/5. 0% is the decimal 0, and it's the fraction 0. Any questions on that? So we've already done number 1. Use the model to write 2 multiplication sentences that are equivalent to 60% of 2,000 equals 1,200. Okay, so what they want you to do is something like this. 0.6 times 2,000 equals 1,200. That's a number sentence. Another one, well, that's the same thing as the fraction 3/5. So you could write 3/5 times 2,000. That will give you 1,200 also. Any questions? And if you did this, you would simplify. 5 divides 5 once. It'll go into that 400 times, and 3 times 400 is 1,200. Any questions? Okay, now let's go on to page 104. Find the percent of a number. To find the percent of a number, such as 60% of 2,000, you can use either of the following methods. Write the percent as a fraction and multiply, or write the percent as a decimal and multiply. So you change your percent to a decimal, or you change it to a fraction and multiply. Of means to multiply. So let's go to number 1. Find 5% of 300 by writing the percent as a fraction. Well, 5%. Percent means per 100. Remember that? So 5 over 100 simplifies to 1/20. Then you just take 1 over 20 times 300. Simplify before you multiply. 20 divided by 20 is 1. 300 divided by 20 is 15. And you end up with the answer 15. So 5% of 300 is 15, and that makes sense because you know it's going to be a little amount. Yes?
So if you know it's 5%, like 5% of 100, could you just multiply that by 3 to find that extreme?
5% of 100?
Yeah, so then you can just multiply 5 times 3, because
Because 5, why would you multiply it by 3?
100 times 3 is 300.
Okay, but yeah. Oh, I can see on this one because it was 300, yeah. But for 100, 5% of 100 is 0.05 times 100, which would be a little different. Okay, but yeah. Now, find 25% of 180 by writing the percent as a decimal. I'll be honest, I would have written this one as a fraction, but since they say a decimal, we have to do it that way. 25% is 0.25. So you take 180 times 0.25, you end up with 40. You get 900, and then you put a place, you add them together, you get 40, and you get 4500. You say, how many numbers are behind the decimal point? 1, 2, 1, 2, and you get 45.00. Okay, I would be honest, 25% is the same thing as 1/4, and I would take 180 times 1/4, and that's a lot easier to me. 4 goes into 4 once, 4 will go into that, and you get 45, and you get 45 over 1, which is 45. That's just, but since they said to change to a decimal, you have to do that. Now it says find the percent of each number. It doesn't matter if you change them to decimals or if you write it as a fraction, but do A, B, C, and D. Either take 0.4 times 70 or 2/5 times 70. Okay, so go ahead and do these problems. I will walk around and check. So as you can tell, I changed my percents to fractions. Here I changed them to decimals. You can do it either way. You can take 70 times 0.4, 100 times 15 hundredths, 160 times 55 hundredths, 280 times 75 hundredths, or 70 times 2/5, 100 times 3/20, 160 times 11/20, or 280 times 3/4. And when you do that, you're going to get 28, 15, that'll be an 88, and the last one will be 210. Any questions on how to do these problems? Okay, let's go to the next page. 105. Here we're going to use percents greater than 100%. So that means it's going to be larger than the amount, because 100% would be the amount. If it's larger than 100, then it's going to be larger than the beginning amount. Percents that are greater than 100% can be written as improper fractions, mixed numbers, or decimals greater than 1. For example, 150% would be 150 over 100, which simplifies to 3/2, which equals 1 1/2, which equals the decimal 1.5. So remember, 100% equals 1. So if it's larger than 100%, it's going to be larger than a 1. Find 120% of 75 by writing the percent as a fraction. Well, you write 120% as 120 over 100. That simplifies to 6/5. So then you just multiply 6/5 times 75. Here you go. Simplify before you multiply. 5 divides 5 once. 5 divides 75 15 times. Then 6 times 15 is 90. 1 times 1 is 1, and the answer is 90. 120% of 75 is 90. Does it make sense? Yes. This answer has to be larger than 75 because your percent is larger than a 100. Any questions on that? Always go back and check. Now let's go on to the next problem. On the next problem in number 4, it says find 150% of 28 by writing the percent as a decimal. Your book, we're going back to volume 1, is over there. Okay, someone can help you find your book there. So 150% of 28 by writing the percent as a decimal. So 150% is 1.5. You move it 2 places to the left. 28 times 1.5 is 42. I like it when they do the place value zeros, but they don't always show those. Any questions on how they got 42? Does it make sense? Is it larger than 28? Yes. Now, I want you to do E and F. Do these problems. You can do it either way. You can change it to a decimal or as a fraction. It's up to you. Okay, so do E and F. Okay, so for letter E, you could take 20 times 1.5, or you could do 20 over 1 times 3 over 2, which this is my preference. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes, and you end up with the answer of 30. You would still get the answer of 30 here. Don't forget to put your decimal point. And then for this one, you would have 3/5. You could change this to your 160% is the fraction 8/5. So you could have 35 over 1 times 8/5. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into that 7 times. And you'll get 56. Or if you would take 35 times 1.6, place value 0, you'll get 56 that way. Either way gives you the answer 56. So for letter E, the answer is 30, and for F, the answer is 56. Any questions? Yes?
On the test, you ask you to do it a certain way.
If it asks you, do it the way that it says. If it doesn't ask, you can do it any way you want as long as it's a correct way. Okay, don't just write down answers. Yeah. You had a question? Yeah. Can you wait until we're done with the next example? If it's an emergency, go. But the next example gets a little hard. If you need to go, just go. If you can wait. Okay, in number 5, refer to the graph. If 275 students took the survey, how many can be expected to have 3 televisions each in their house? Okay, so here we have a survey. Results of numbers of televisions in the house. Okay, now when they add all of these together, what should it equal? When you add all of your percentages up, it should equal what? 100, that's right. So it says, write the percent as a decimal, then multiply. So 23% times 275, because 275 people were interviewed, equals 63.25 people should have 3 television sets in their house. That's how they did that problem. It says, refer to exercise G. It is common for people who work in the sales industry to earn a commission on the products they sell. So for letter G, it says, Mr. Sudamak earned a 4% commission on the sale of a hot tub that cost $3,755. How much did he earn? So some of you might not know what the word commission means. If you're a salesperson, the commission is how much money you make on selling that product. Like if you're you're selling cars. When you sell a car, you get a certain percentage of that price. Okay, and that's part of your paycheck. So that's what they are talking about here. So how much does this guy get paid when he sells this item? So you're going to take 3,755 times 0.04, because 4% equals the decimal 0.04. When you move it 2 places to the left, you have to put a 0 there. Okay? And whenever you multiply that out, you're going to end up with the answer for your problem, and it's $150.20. So when he sells that hot tub, in his paycheck, he'll get $150.20 for that sale. Okay, so that's what commission means. That's how much money he would make. Now, I want you to go on and do the guided practice. It says find each number, round to the nearest tenth if necessary. You can do it either way. It didn't say to change them to decimals. It didn't say to use a fraction. You can choose whichever way you want to do these problems. Okay? Excuse me. 8% of 50 is 4. That makes sense. It's going to be less than 50. 8% is a tiny amount. 95% of 40 means the answer is going to be close to 40, and we have the answer 38. 110% of 70 means the answer has to be larger than 70, and we have the answer 77. That makes sense. Any questions on 1, 2, and 3? Okay, in problem number 4. Mackenzie wants to buy a backpack that costs $50. If the tax rate is 6.5%, how much will she pay? Well, you always add the tax onto the cost. So it's not going to cost her $50, it's going to be $50 plus tax. So you are going to change 6.5% will equal 0.065. So multiply $50 times 0.065, or you could do 0.065 times 50, because multiplication is commutative. It doesn't matter which one you do first. So we have a decimal percent, but when you change your decimal percent to a straight out decimal, it's 0.065, just to make sure that's clear. And the way you do it is you move your decimal point 2 places to the left. 1, 2. You have an empty loopy, you have to put a 0 in it. When you multiply this, put down a 5, carry a 2. You have 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal point, and the answer is going to be $3.25 is your tax. So the question says, how much tax will she pay? The tax is $3.25. Now, if they ask the total, let's go ahead and figure out the total cost. The total cost would be 50 plus $3.25. So the final cost would be $53.25. Any questions on that? Okay, now, before we go on with what I'm going to have you do for homework, I want to talk to you a little bit about the next lesson. And this lesson is about percents and estimation. Let's go now to page 111. And this is Chapter 2, Lesson 2, page 111. On this problem here, estimate your percents. Well, 42% is about 40%. 32% is going to be about what? 30. 26%, I would change that to 25% because 25% is the fraction 1/4. 30% would be 3/10. All right. Now, let's go on to the next page. This is just, once again, estimating. You really won't do much estimating in your lessons, very much. Most of it will be exact. It says, Jody has paid 62% of the $500 she owes for her loan. Estimate 62% of 500. Well, you can change it to a decimal or a fraction, and that would be 3/5 of 500 is 300. As long as you know how to do the exact, that's the main thing. 10% is very easy. 10% of a number, you just move it one place to the left. 10% of $15 is $1.50. So just remember, 10% would be 1/10, and you just move the decimal point over one place to the left. Let's see, are there any other things? Percents greater than 100 or less than 1 or less than 1. You all know that a percent greater than 100 is going to be larger than the number. I don't really see anything new in this lesson that I would really want you to have to do. Yeah, as far as lesson 2, I think we just covered the main things about it. As long as you know how to do the exact, that's the main thing that I want you to do. Okay, so let's go back to lesson 1, and what do I want you to do for homework? Page 107, all, 1 to 11. Page 108, I want you to do 12 to 21. On page 109, we're going to do 27 to 36. Yeah, because 25 and 26 are already done for you. And that will be it.